The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most moons, built from metal that sparkled like diamonds and glowed with soft blue light. This was the home of the Galactic Council, where 12 alien races made decisions that affected trillions of lives across the galaxy. Today, something was very wrong. High Arbiter Kethvar stood in the center of the Great Chamber. His tall, thin body was covered in dark scales that shifted color when he was angry. Right now, they were turning deep red. Around him sat the representatives of the 12 most powerful civilizations in known space. Each one looked different. Some had tentacles, others had crystal bodies, and a few looked almost like giant insects, but they all shared the same expression: fear. "We have made a terrible mistake," Kethvar said, his voice echoing through the chamber. 50 years ago, we discovered a new species on a small blue planet. We thought they were just another primitive race that we could control and guide. We were wrong. The holographic display in the center of the room lit up, showing images of Earth. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful. But the aliens in the chamber knew better now. "Humans," whispered Zaraneth, the representative of the Zephyrian Empire. Her people looked like tall, graceful beings made of living light. "In 50 years, they have advanced more than most species do in 1,000 years. They refuse to follow our laws. They make friends with species we have spent centuries keeping apart." The crystal being called Vex Prime made a sound like breaking glass. "Our calculations show that humans learn from every battle, every encounter. They adapt faster than any species we have recorded. They do not think like us. They do not act like us. They are unpredictable." Kethvar nodded grimly. "Show them the reports." The holographic display changed, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Human ships that had appeared in systems where they were not supposed to be. Human traders who had somehow convinced 3 different alien races to work together, breaking ancient treaties. Human scientists who had figured out technology that should have taken them centuries to understand. "They bond with other species," said the insect-like representative of the Hive Collective. "Our spies report that humans will risk their lives to save aliens they barely know. This makes them dangerous. Other species trust them. Other species listen to them. And they multiply too fast," added another council member. "Their population grows at an alarming rate. Their ships spread across space like a disease. Soon, there will be too many of them to control." Kethvar raised one clawed hand for silence. "The worst part is that they ask questions, constantly. They want to know why we make certain rules. They want to know who gave us the right to decide what other species can and cannot do. They are teaching other races to ask these same questions." The chamber fell quiet. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace by keeping younger species weak and separated. They told each new civilization that this was the natural order, that the Council knew best. But humans refused to accept this. They helped other species communicate with each other. They shared technology freely. They acted like equals rather than children to be guided. "There have been protests on 17 worlds," Zaraneth reported. "Species that have been under our protection for centuries are now demanding representation in the Council. They want to make their own decisions. The humans have infected them with ideas of independence." "Independence," Kethvar repeated, the word like it tasted bad. "They do not understand that some species cannot handle freedom. They will destroy themselves and others. Order must be maintained." Vex Prime's crystal body pulsed with red light. "Our projections show that if current trends continue, the Council's authority will collapse within 200 years. Humans are the catalyst. Remove them, and the rebellion dies." "But humans fight back," said the Hive representative. When we tried to establish monitoring stations in their territory, they destroyed them. When we sent diplomatic ships to demand compliance, the humans sent them back with messages telling us to leave them alone. They show no respect for our authority. Because they do not fear us, Kethvar said. Every other species we have encountered learned to respect our power. Humans see our advanced technology and immediately start figuring out how to build something better. They see our vast fleets and begin designing ways to defeat them. They are not impressed by us. They see us as obstacles to overcome. The chamber's lights dimmed as Kethvar activated the security protocols. What he was about to discuss could not be allowed to reach any other ears. I have consulted with military strategists from all 12 civilizations, he began. We are unanimous in our conclusion. Humanity cannot be controlled. They cannot be contained. They cannot be reasoned with. They will continue to grow stronger and more dangerous until they threaten everything we have built. What are you suggesting? Asked Zaraneth, though her tone suggested she already knew. Total extermination protocol, Kethvar said simply. We destroy Earth and every human colony. We wipe them from existence before they can spread their chaos any further. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Extermination protocols had been used before, but only against species that posed direct military threats. Humans had never attacked the council directly. Their crime was simply existing and refusing to submit. Is this necessary? Asked a representative from one of the smaller council races. Perhaps if we tried a different approach. There is no other approach, Vex Prime interrupted. We have run millions of calculations. Every scenario that allows humans to survive eventually leads to the collapse of galactic order. They cannot be changed. They cannot be stopped. They can only be eliminated. The humans have done nothing to directly threaten us, the small representative continued. Yes, they are disruptive, but they exist, Kethvar said coldly. That is threat enough. A single human ship was captured near the outer rim last month. Do you know what our interrogators found? The humans had been mapping our trade routes, studying our defensive positions, analyzing our communication patterns. They were not planning an attack. They were simply learning about us. That curiosity, that endless need to understand and improve, that is what makes them dangerous. The council member fell silent. The operation will be swift and complete, Kethvar continued. We will use ships from all 12 fleets to ensure there are no survivors. Every human world, every space station, every ship will be destroyed simultaneously. It will appear to be a natural disaster. Asteroid impacts, solar flares, equipment, failures. The galaxy will mourn the tragic loss of such a promising young species, never knowing that we saved them from a future of chaos. One by one, the representatives voted. Some hesitated, but in the end, fear won over conscience. 12 civilizations, 12 votes. The decision was unanimous. Prepare your fleets, Kethvar ordered. Operation Silent Dawn begins in 72 hours. Make no mistake. This is not just military action. This is pest control. We are removing a threat to galactic stability before it can mature into something truly dangerous. As the council members filed out to return to their ships, none of them noticed the small device hidden in the chamber's ventilation system. It had been placed there months ago by a maintenance worker who looked completely normal, except for the fact that his DNA was 100% human. The device finished recording and began transmitting its data across the galaxy using frequencies that the council had never bothered to monitor. Within hours, the recording would reach hidden human outposts scattered throughout space. Humanity was about to learn that the galaxy's most powerful civilizations had decided they were too dangerous to live. But the Council had made one critical error in their calculations. They had assumed that humans would wait to be attacked before fighting back. The attack began at exactly midnight, Earth time. Across 12 different star systems, massive alien warships dropped out of hyperspace. Their hulls were black as night, covered with stealth technology that made them nearly invisible. The Council had planned this moment for months, and everything had to be perfect. Admiral Rebecca Torres was sleeping in her quarters aboard the Orbital Defense Station Guardian when the alarms started screaming. She rolled out of bed, her feet hitting the cold metal floor as emergency lights bathed everything in red. Her communication device was buzzing with panicked voices from across the solar system. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace," her tactical officer reported, his voice tight with fear. Jesus Christ, Admiral. I count over 300 ships. They're massive." Rebecca rushed to the command center, pulling on her uniform as she ran. Through the viewing windows, she could see flashes of light in the darkness, the muzzle flares of weapons firing, but they were not firing at the defense stations yet. They were firing at Earth. "Report!" she barked as she reached her command chair. "Unknown alien fleet has surrounded the entire system," Lieutenant Chen announced. "They appeared simultaneously at 12 different jump points. No communication attempts, no warnings. They just started shooting." On the main screen, Earth hung like a blue marble against the black of space. But now, streaks of fire were falling through the atmosphere like deadly rain. The aliens were using antimatter torpedoes, weapons so powerful that each one could level an entire city. "Where are they hitting?" Rebecca asked, though she dreaded the answer. "New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Tokyo, Mumbai." Lieutenant Chen's voice broke. "Admiral, they're targeting every major population center simultaneously. The death toll is already in the millions." Rebecca felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. This was not a military strike. It was genocide. Pure and simple. "All defensive platforms. Open fire," she commanded. "Target the largest ships first." Guardian's massive railguns opened up, sending streams of metal death toward the alien fleet. Around Earth's orbit, dozens of other defense stations joined the fight. Humanity's defenders fought, with courage and determination, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. The alien ships were like nothing humans had ever seen. They were kilometers long, covered in energy shields that turned human weapons into harmless light shows. When they fired back, entire defense stations simply vanished in balls of white fire. "Admiral, Guardian Base and Fortress 7 are gone," Lieutenant Chen reported. "We've lost contact with the lunar colonies. The Mars orbital platforms are under attack." Rebecca watched in horror as humanity's defenses crumbled. Earth's surface was burning. The orbital factories that built humanity's starships were being systematically destroyed. The aliens were not just trying to defeat humanity, they were trying to erase every trace that humans had ever existed. "Ma'am, incoming transmission from an alien vessel," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." The main screen changed, showing the face of High Arbiter Kethvar. His scales were now a satisfied purple color, and his eyes held no mercy. "Humans of Earth," he said in perfect English. "You have been judged by the Galactic Council and found to be a threat to galactic stability. Your species' refusal to accept proper guidance and your dangerous influence on other civilizations has forced this action. Your extinction is necessary for the greater good." "You bastard," Rebecca whispered. "Your military resistance is admirable but pointless," Kethvar continued. "Accept your fate with dignity. Your species had potential, but you chose the wrong path. Perhaps the next intelligent species to evolve on your world will be wiser." The transmission ended. "Admiral, we're receiving evacuation requests from across the system," Lieutenant Chen said. "Civilian ships, cargo haulers, even pleasure craft are trying to escape, but the aliens are hunting them down." Rebecca watched the tactical display as small dots representing human ships winked out one by one. The aliens were not content to just destroy Earth. They were systematically hunting down every human in space. "Ma'am, I'm picking up something strange," the sensor officer called out. "Long-range scanners are detecting similar attacks in the Alpha Centauri system and the Wolf 359 colony. The aliens are hitting all of our settlements at the same time." The magnitude of the attack hit Rebecca like a physical blow. This was not just an assault on Earth. It was a coordinated strike against every human presence in known space. The aliens had planned to wipe out her entire species in a single night. How many people? She started to ask, then stopped. She did not want to know the numbers. Guardians shook as alien weapons found their target. Pieces of the station's outer hull spun away into space, glowing red-hot. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, making Rebecca's stomach lurch. "Hull breaches on deck 7 through 12, someone reported. "Engineering reports we've lost main power to the port weapon systems." Rebecca looked at the tactical display. Of Earth's original 50 defense platforms, only 6 were still operational. The alien fleet remained almost untouched. "Admiral, we're getting reports that some government officials escaped to the underground bunkers," Lieutenant Chen said quietly. "But the aliens are using deep penetration bombs. Even the deepest shelters won't hold for long." Rebecca closed, her eyes for a moment, listening to the sounds of her dying station. Metal groaned under stress. Alarms wailed. In the distance, she could hear someone crying. "Admiral!" The communications officer suddenly perked up. "I'm receiving a transmission on an emergency frequency. It's from Admiral Chen. She says she's aboard something called the Retribution." Rebecca's eyes snapped open. Admiral Sarah Chen was supposed to be dead. Her ship had been listed as lost with all hands 6 months ago during a routine patrol mission. "Put her through." The screen flickered, showing a woman with graying hair and fierce eyes. Behind her, Rebecca could see what looked like the bridge of a warship. But the technology looked more advanced than anything in the regular human fleet. "Rebecca," Sarah said without preamble. "How bad is it?" "Earth is burning," Rebecca replied. "We've lost most of the fleet. They hit us everywhere at once, Sarah. This was planned." "I know. We've been monitoring Council communications for months. We knew this was coming." "We? Sarah, where have you been? What ship is that?" Sarah's expression hardened. "That's classified. Right now, I need you to gather any survivors you can find and get to the emergency rally point in the Kuiper Belt. Use the old mining station coordinates." "Sarah, there is no emergency rally point in the Kuiper Belt. That's empty space." "No, it's not. Trust me, Rebecca. Get anyone you can save and head there immediately. And Rebecca, tell everyone to use communication blackout protocols. No transmissions that the aliens can track." "What are you talking about? What's out there?" Sarah leaned forward, and for the first time since the attack began, Rebecca saw something other than despair in another person's eyes. She saw cold, calculating fury. "Insurance, Rebecca. Humanity's insurance policy. We always knew that someone might try to wipe us out someday. We prepared for it." "Prepared how?" "By making sure that if anyone ever tried to exterminate humanity, they would learn to regret it. The Council thinks they're dealing with a primitive species that can be easily eliminated. They're about to discover just how wrong they are." Another explosion rocked Guardian, and Rebecca had to grab her chair to keep from falling. "Sarah, I don't think we're going to make it out of here alive." "Then make sure your death counts for something. Record everything. Document what they did here. Humanity will want evidence when it comes time for the trial." "Trial?" "Sarah, they're wiping us out. There won't be anyone left to hold a trial." Sarah's smile was cold as deep space. "Oh, there will be. The Council made one critical mistake, Rebecca. They assumed that all of humanity was in the places they could see. They were wrong." The transmission ended just as Guardian's main reactor began to fail. Rebecca looked around at her remaining crew, 12 brave men and women who had fought to the end against impossible odds. "You heard the Admiral?" she said. "Anyone who can make it to an escape pod, head for the Kuiper Belt. Upload all our sensor data to the emergency beacons first. Whatever Admiral Chen has planned, she's going to need to know exactly what happened here." As Guardian died around them, the survivors launched toward the outer system. Behind them, Earth continued to burn. The great cities of humanity were reduced to glowing craters. Billions of people had died in a single night. But in the darkness between the planets, something was stirring. Hidden bases that did not appear on any official charts were coming online. Ships that had officially never been built were powering up their weapons. The Council had successfully destroyed humanity's visible civilization. Now they were about to meet the part of humanity that had always remained hidden. And that part was very, very angry. 3 months after the attack on Earth, the Galactic Council believed that humanity was extinct. Their reports showed complete success. Every human world burned, every human ship destroyed, every trace of the species erased from the galaxy. They were wrong. Captain HFY of the Zephyrian Trade Federation was having a normal day when it happened. His cargo ship, Bright Wanderer, was traveling between 2 Council worlds carrying medical supplies. The journey should have been routine. Jump to hyperspace, emerge near the destination planet, deliver the cargo, get paid. Instead, when Bright Wanderer dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves face to face with something impossible. "Captain," his navigator whispered, "there's a ship out there." HFY looked at the viewing screen and felt his blood turn cold. The ship floating in space before them was clearly human in design. He recognized the angular hull shape and the distinctive engine configuration from the intelligence briefings, but according to every report, there were no human ships left in the galaxy. "Impossible," he muttered. "Scan it. Full spectrum analysis." "Sir, the ship appears to be empty. No life signs, no power signatures. It's just drifting." HFY relaxed slightly. It must be wreckage from the purge, somehow overlooked by the cleanup crews. "Board it. See if there's anything valuable we can salvage." That was his last mistake. When the boarding party reached the human ship, they found it was not empty at all. Hidden in specially shielded compartments were 3 humans wearing advanced armor that made them invisible to Zephyrian sensors. The humans had been waiting. What happened next was recorded by the ship's automatic systems, though the footage was so disturbing that Council intelligence officers who viewed it needed psychological treatment afterward. The humans did not simply kill the boarding party, they did something far worse. They asked questions. For 6 hours, the humans kept the Zephyrian crew alive and conscious, while they extracted every piece of information about Council operations, military deployments, and political structures. They used devices that could read memories directly from living brains. They employed drugs that made lying impossible. They demonstrated technologies that the Council's best scientists could not understand. When they were finished, they left the crew alive, but changed. Every Zephyrian aboard Bright Wanderer had been exposed to something that damaged their minds. They could function normally for the most part, but occasionally they would stop whatever they were doing and scream. The screaming could last for hours. The humans took the ship's cargo and left behind a single message. "We know who you are. We know where you live. We are coming." That was the beginning of what the Council would later call the Ghost War. Within weeks, similar incidents were happening across Council space. Human ships would appear out of nowhere, attack targets that seemed completely random, and then vanish before any response could be organized. They never went after military bases or strategic installations. Instead, they targeted civilian cargo ships, research stations, and most terrifyingly, the personal vessels of Council officials. Admiral Sarah Chen aboard the hidden dreadnought. Retribution reviewed the latest intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. Around her, the command center buzzed with activity as dozens of officers coordinated humanity's revenge. "The hegemony has lost 17 cargo ships this week, Commander," Jackson reported. "The Vex Collective is refusing to send ships through the Outer Rim sectors, and 3 more Council members have put their families in protective custody." Sarah nodded. "Good. Fear is spreading. What about the biological weapons program?" "Dr. Reeves says the new strain is ready for testing. It targets Dominion genetic markers specifically. Won't harm any other species." "And the Psychological Warfare Division?" They've developed something they're calling nightmare seeds, transmitted through normal communication channels, but they embed themselves in alien brain patterns and cause increasingly severe hallucinations. Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The Council wanted to judge humanity. Now they get to experience what we're really capable of when we stop trying to be civilized. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. Not because they planned to be aggressive, but because they understood something that other species did not. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and sometimes nice people had to do terrible things to survive. Hidden research stations scattered throughout space had been developing weapons that pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable warfare. Ships that could phase in and out of normal space, viruses that could rewrite alien DNA, mind control technologies that could turn enemy crews against each other. The Council had rules about such weapons. Humanity had never agreed to follow those rules. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Strike Team 7, Communications Officer Martinez announced. They've successfully infiltrated the Hive Collective's communication network. Put them through." The screen lit up, showing the face of Lieutenant Commander Torres, one of the few survivors from Earth's orbital defense stations. She was aboard a ship that looked nothing like any human vessel the Council had ever seen. It was organic in design, grown rather than built, using technology humans had acquired from species the Council had oppressed. "Admiral, we've gained access to their entire tactical database," Torres reported. "We know the location of every Hive world, every military installation, every government official. We're ready to begin Phase 2. Proceed with authorization Omega-7, Sarah replied. "Remember, we want them alive but broken. Dead enemies can't spread fear." The screen went dark, and Sarah turned to address her staff. "Gentlemen and ladies, the Council made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They saw our compassion and mistook it for weakness. They saw our desire for peace and assumed we were pacifists. They were wrong on both counts." She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked human strike teams, while blue dots showed Council targets. "Humans are not violent by nature," Sarah continued. "But we are very, very good at violence when it becomes necessary. For 50,000 years, we evolved as predators on a world where everything was trying to kill us. We learned to work together, to think creatively, and to never give up. Those traits made us excellent diplomats and traders. They also make us excellent killers." Commander Jackson raised his hand. "Admiral, some of the crew are expressing concerns about our methods. The biological weapons, the psychological torture. Some are saying we're becoming the monsters we fought against." Sarah's expression hardened. "The Council killed 8 billion human beings in a single night, Commander. They hunted down civilian evacuation ships filled with children. They destroyed hospitals, schools, and refugee camps. They tried to erase our entire species from existence because they found us inconvenient." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We are not becoming monsters. We are showing monsters what real monsters look like. The difference is that when this is over, we'll go back to being civilized. The Council will not get that chance." Across the galaxy, other human strike teams were executing their own missions. On the Dominion capital world, government officials woke up to find their children missing. The children were returned unharmed a week later, along with recordings of everything their parents had said during private council meetings. The message was clear. Humans could reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. The Vex Collective's crystal cities began experiencing technical difficulties. Their computer networks, which had operated flawlessly for millennia, started displaying images of burning Earth and playing audio recordings of human children crying. The images could not be deleted, and the sounds could not be stopped. Trade routes that had been safe for centuries became hunting grounds. Council ships would arrive at their destinations to find their cargo replaced with recordings of council meetings where the extermination of humanity was planned. Some cargo containers held worse things: biological samples from dead humans or pieces of destroyed human cities. But the most effective weapon in humanity's arsenal was not technology or biology or psychology. It was recruitment. Humans began making contact with other species that had suffered under council rule. Minor civilizations that had been conquered and absorbed, proud warrior races that had been forced into submission, scientists whose research had been suppressed, philosophers whose ideas had been banned. The humans offered a simple deal: help us destroy the council, and we'll help you rebuild. Fight with us, and when this is over, you'll be free to make your own choices about your future. Many species refused, too afraid of council retaliation. But others listened, and slowly, quietly, a new alliance began to form in the shadows. The council had spent centuries maintaining order by keeping subject species isolated and weak. Now humanity was doing the opposite, bringing them together and making them strong. It was everything the council had feared most about human influence, but weaponized and focused on a single goal. Revenge. Dr. Elena Vasquez, leader of the Psychological Warfare Division, submitted her latest report from a hidden base in an asteroid field. Admiral, we've successfully introduced nightmare seeds into the communication networks of all 12 council species. Projected timeline for significant psychological breakdown is 6 to 8 weeks. High Arbiter Kethvar stared at the reports piling up on his desk with growing horror. 6 months after the successful extermination of humanity, the galaxy was falling apart. Impossible, he muttered for the 100th time that day. We killed them all. We watched their worlds burn. We hunted down every ship, every station, every last trace of their existence. His aide, a nervous Zephyrian named Veltar, shifted uncomfortably. Sir, the evidence suggests otherwise. These attacks show clear signs of human planning and technology. Show me the latest incident report. Veltar activated the holographic display. Yesterday, the Dominion colony ship Imperial Dawn was found drifting in space. All 12,000 passengers were alive, but they had been altered. The display showed the inside of the colony ship. Kethvar winced as he saw the passengers. They were physically unharmed, but their eyes held a vacant, terrified expression. They could speak, but all they could say were the names and addresses of their leaders' family members, repeated over and over like a prayer. Medical examination shows that someone rewrote their brain patterns, Veltar continued. The process was surgical in its precision. Whoever did this knew exactly how Dominion neural pathways function. Kethvar felt his scales shift to a sickly yellow color. What about the missing children from the hegemony core worlds? Still missing, sir. But we keep receiving recordings of them playing and laughing. The children appear happy and healthy, but the psychological impact on their parents has been devastating. 3 hegemony governors have resigned, and 2 more have requested transfer to maximum security facilities. And the Vex Collective? Complete communication breakdown. Their entire crystal network has been infected with some kind of virus that makes their shared consciousness experience human memories. They're living through the destruction of Earth over and over again. Many crystals have gone completely dark, rather than continue sharing the experience. Kethvar stood up and walked to the viewing window. Outside, the space around Nexus Prime was filled with ships. Not the usual mix of council vessels, but military escorts and defensive platforms. The council was afraid, and fear made them paranoid. Sir, Veltar said quietly, there's something else. We've detected unauthorized communications between several subject species. The humans appear to be recruiting allies. Which species? The Krell warrior clans, the ethereal mindwalkers, the silicon engineers. At least 40 different civilizations have been contacted. Most have refused to respond, but some Veltar hesitated. Somewhat. Some have agreed to meet with human representatives. Kethvar whirled around, his scales now a furious red. That's impossible. Those species have been under council protection for centuries. They're loyal. With respect, sir, they were conquered. There's a difference. Before Kethvar could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as automated voices announced a security breach. Report! Kethvar barked into his communicator. Sir, this is station security, came the panicked response. We have intruders in Section 7. They appeared out of nowhere. Our sensors didn't detect them until they were already inside. How many? Unknown, sir. They're using some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before. And, sir, they're human. Kethvar felt like someone had dumped ice water into his veins. Nexus Prime was the most heavily defended location in Council space. It had shields that could stop planet-killing weapons, sensors that could detect a single atom of foreign matter, and security systems that had never been breached. Seal all sections, he ordered. Deploy the guard units. I want those humans captured alive. For the next hour, Kethvar listened to increasingly frantic reports from his security teams. The humans moved through the station like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. They seemed to know exactly where they were going, as if they had detailed maps of the facility. Sir, they've reached the central computer core. Security Chief Brendock reported. We've lost contact with 3 guard units. The humans, they're not killing our people, sir. They're doing something worse. Explain. They're using some kind of neural interface device. Our guards are alive and unharmed, but they're just standing there, staring at nothing. Medical teams report complete neural shutdown. Not death, just emptiness. Kethvar realized with growing dread that the humans were not trying to destroy the station. They were taking it over. Sir, incoming transmission, Veltar announced. It's coming from inside the station. Put it through. The holographic display flickered, then showed the face of a human woman. She appeared to be in her 50s, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. Behind her, Kethvar could see what looked like Nexus Prime's own command center. High Arbiter Kethvar, the woman said pleasantly. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen. We need to talk. Impossible, Kethvar snarled. You're dead. Your entire species is extinct. Sarah smiled, and the expression was terrifying. Reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated. We're very much alive, and we've been having such an interesting time learning about Council operations. How did you get aboard? This station? Trade secret. But I will say that your security is impressively comprehensive. It would have stopped any conventional attack. Unfortunately for you, humans stopped fighting conventionally about the time you decided to genocide us. Kethvar looked around his office, suddenly realizing how exposed he was. What do you want? Justice would be nice, but I'll settle for surrender. You see, we've spent the last 6 months proving a point. We wanted to demonstrate that the Council's power is an illusion. You rule through fear and technology, but you've never faced an enemy that refused to be afraid. You cannot defeat us. We have fleets, armies, weapons beyond your understanding. Had, Sarah corrected. You had those things. Do you know what we've been doing while you've been hunting ghosts across the galaxy? We've been recruiting. Turns out that a lot of species don't actually appreciate being conquered and controlled for centuries. Who knew? The display changed, showing a star map of Council space. Red dots marked locations where human operations were taking place. But what made Kethavar's blood freeze were the green dots, dozens of them, representing allied species that had joined the human cause. The Krell have provided us with warrior contingents trained in boarding actions, Sarah explained casually. The Ethereals gave us the mental domination technology we're using on your people right now. The Silicon engineers helped us build ships that can phase through your defensive barriers. And that's just the beginning. Those species would never betray the Council. We've protected them for centuries. Protected them from what? Freedom? Self-determination? The right to make their own choices? Sarah's voice turned cold. You didn't protect them, Arbiter. You controlled them. There's a difference, and they've finally figured it out. Kethavar activated his personal communicator. All units, converge on my location. I want these humans captured immediately. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Sarah said. You see, we've taken control of your station's life support systems. Everyone aboard Nexus Prime is currently breathing a harmless but very effective sedative. Your people will be unconscious in about 10 minutes. As if on cue, Veltar suddenly swayed and collapsed to the floor, breathing but completely unconscious. Kethavar felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. Don't worry, Sarah continued. No one will be permanently harmed. We're not like you. We don't commit genocide. But we are going to make some changes to how things work around here. The Council will never surrender to terrorists. Terrorists? Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Arbiter, you destroyed our entire civilization because you found us inconvenient. You murdered 8 billion innocent people to maintain your political control. If anyone in this conversation is a terrorist, it's not us. Kethavar's vision was beginning to blur, but he managed to stay standing. What? What do you want? Complete dissolution of the Galactic Council. War crimes trials for all current and former leaders. Reparations for every species you've oppressed. And most importantly, a new galactic government based on actual representation rather than fear and control. Never. That's what I thought you'd say, which is why we've prepared a demonstration. The display changed again, showing space around one of the Dominion's most heavily defended worlds. Kethavar watched in horror as massive human warships appeared. Out of nowhere, dozens of them, each one larger and more advanced than anything the Council possessed. Project Damocles, Sarah explained. While you've been playing politics for the last few centuries, we've been advancing our technology. These ships represent the cutting edge of human engineering, enhanced with contributions from our new allies. Each one is capable of sterilizing an entire planet. You wouldn't dare. We wouldn't want to. But we will if we have to. The choice is yours, Arbiter. Surrender now and face trial for your crimes, or watch as we systematically dismantle everything you've built, starting with the Dominion homeworld. Kethavar fell to his knees as the sedative finally overcame his resistance. As consciousness faded, he heard Sarah's voice one last time. You have 24 hours to decide. Choose wisely. Humanity has learned to be very patient, but our patience is not infinite. 24 hours later, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as the last symbols of Council power finally crumbled. Around her, human officers worked alongside aliens from dozens of different species, former enemies, who had become allies in the fight against oppression. The response to humanity's ultimatum had been exactly what Sarah expected. Some Council members had tried to negotiate. Others had attempted desperate military strikes. A few had simply tried to run, abandoning their responsibilities and fleeing to the outer rim of the galaxy. None of it had worked. Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from the Zephyrian Home Fleet, Commander Torres reported. That makes 8 of the 12 Council species that have formally capitulated. And the others? The Dominion is still trying to organize a counterattack, but their command structure has been compromised. The Vex Collective has gone completely silent. Our psychological warfare seems to have shattered their group consciousness. The Hive... Torres paused. The Hive tried to activate their planetary defense grid on their home world. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Tried? Strike Team Alpha had already infiltrated their systems. When they attempted to fire on our ships, their own weapons turned on their military installations instead. The damage was extensive. Sarah nodded grimly. It was necessary, but she took no pleasure in the destruction. Every human ship, every weapon, every strategy they used was a reminder of what the Council had forced them to become. Ma'am, incoming transmission from Earth, Communications Officer Martinez announced. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Put it through. The main screen lit up, showing a face Sarah had not seen in months. General Harrison Webb, former head of Earth's Planetary Defense Force. Behind him, Sarah could see blue skies and green trees. It was impossible, but it looked like Earth was alive again. Sarah, Harrison said with a weary smile. Good to see you're still causing trouble. Harry, how are you even alive? I saw the orbital footage. Earth was burning. It was. We lost a lot of good people that night. But it turns out that when you spend 50 years preparing for the possibility of alien invasion, you build more than just hidden fleets and secret weapons. You build shelters, deep ones. The camera pulled back, showing more of Harrison's surroundings. Sarah gasped as she realized he was standing in what looked like Central Park in New York City, but the buildings in the background were different. Taller, more advanced, built with technology that had not existed before the attack. We've been busy, Harrison continued. Turns out that nearly complete planetary destruction is actually a great opportunity for urban renewal. We're rebuilding, Sarah, and this time we're building it right. How many survivors? More than you'd think. The deep shelters saved about 2 billion people, not as many as we'd hoped, but enough to ensure humanity's future. And Sarah, we're not alone down here anymore. The camera panned to show figures moving through the rebuilt city. Sarah's eyes widened as she recognized representatives from dozens of different alien species, many of them former council subjects who had joined the Human Alliance. We're calling it the New Earth Compact, Harrison explained. A voluntary association of species working together as equals. No rulers, no subjects, just cooperation and mutual respect. It's what the council should have been. Sarah felt tears running down her cheeks. For the first time since the attack began, she was seeing hope instead of revenge. Admiral, Torres said quietly, we're receiving a priority transmission from High Arbiter Kethvar. Sarah wiped her eyes and straightened her uniform. Put him through, but keep General Webb on a secondary channel. The screen split, showing both Harrison's face and that of the defeated council leader. Kethvar looked terrible. His scales had turned a sickly gray color, and his eyes held the hollow expression of someone who had lost everything. Admiral Chen, Kethvar said, his voice barely above a whisper. The council formally surrenders, unconditionally. All 12. Species? Those that remain functional, yes. The Vex Collective has suffered complete psychological breakdown. They may never recover. The Hive leadership is dead, killed by their own defense systems. But the rest of us, we yield. Sarah studied the broken alien leader for a long moment. 6 months ago, this creature had ordered the extermination of her entire species. Now he was begging for mercy. What guarantees do we have that you won't simply rebuild your forces and try again? There are no forces left to rebuild, Kethvar replied. Your alliance has recruited most of our subject species. Our military capabilities have been neutralized. Our government structures have collapsed. We have nothing left to fight with. And the war crimes trials. We will submit to whatever justice you deem appropriate. Sarah looked at Harrison's image on the secondary screen. He nodded slightly, giving her the encouragement she needed. Very well, Sarah said. The war is over. All council military forces will stand down immediately. All political prisoners will be released. All subject species will be granted immediate independence. And yes, there will be trials. What? What will happen to us? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, considering her answer. The human part of her. The part that remembered Earth burning. And billions of innocent people dying, wanted revenge. Wanted to see these aliens suffer as humanity had suffered. But the better part of her, the part that remembered what humanity was supposed to stand for, knew that endless cycles of revenge would solve nothing. You'll be judged, she said finally, by representatives of all the species you oppressed, including humanity. Some of you will face severe consequences for your actions. Others may be granted clemency if they cooperate with the rebuilding process. But all of you will live with the knowledge of what you've done. And after the trials? After the trials, we build something better. A galactic community based on voluntary cooperation instead of fear and domination. A system where younger species are helped and guided, not conquered and controlled. A civilization that humanity can be proud to be part of. Harrison's voice came through the secondary channel. Sarah, the new government structures are already being established. We've got representatives from over 60 species participating in the Constitutional Convention. It's actually working. Sarah smiled for the first time in months. Harry, I want you to know that every human who died in the attack died for something worthwhile. They died so that this moment could happen. I know, Sarah, and they would be proud of what you've accomplished. Kethavar cleared his throat nervously. Admiral, what assurances do we have that humanity will not simply become the new council? That you won't repeat our mistakes? Sarah's expression hardened. Because we remember what it feels like to be on the receiving end of galactic oppression. Because we've learned that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. And because we've seen what happens when power is concentrated in the hands of a few. She paused, then continued in a softer voice. But most importantly, because we'll never let ourselves forget this moment. We're building monuments, Arbiter, not to our victory but to our dead. Every major world in human space will have a memorial listing the names of everyone who died in your attack. Future generations of humans will grow up knowing the price of allowing tyrants to flourish. And if some of us try to rebuild our old power structures, Sarah's smile was cold as space, then you'll discover that humanity has very long memories and very effective intelligence networks. We've learned to be excellent at hunting down war criminals, Arbiter. I wouldn't recommend testing our resolve. The transmission from Kethavar ended, leaving Sarah alone with Harrison's image. Sarah, Harrison said, when this is all over, when the trials are finished and the new government is established, what will you do? Sarah looked around the bridge of the retribution, at the faces of the people who had followed her through the darkest chapter in human history. They were tired, scarred, changed by the terrible things they had been forced to do, but they were also proud of what they had accomplished. We're going to explore, she said finally. There's a whole galaxy out there, Harry. New worlds to discover, new species to meet, new knowledge to gain. The Council kept everyone focused on politics and control, but there's so much more than that. And the fleet, the weapons, all the terrible things we built to fight this war, some of it will be dismantled, some will be converted to peaceful purposes. But some... Sarah's expression grew serious. Some will be kept, Harry, hidden away, just like before. Because we've learned that the galaxy can be a dangerous place, and sometimes good people need to be prepared to do terrible things to protect what matters. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Exactly. We'll never again be caught unprepared. Never again will humanity face extinction because we were too trusting or too naive. The Council taught us that lesson, and we won't forget it. As the conversation ended, Sarah turned to address her crew. Ladies and gentlemen, the war is over. The galaxy is free, but our work is just beginning. She activated the ship-wide communication system, broadcasting to every human vessel in the fleet. Attention, all ships. Operation Silent Dawn is officially concluded. The Galactic Council has surrendered unconditionally, and trials for war